No, that's not something important. What is it? While you're in Vegas, you're not being blinded. I think I'll be okay for a time. Especially before that. Yeah, it's 6:30 now, so I'm gonna start the webinar. Yeah. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is John DeLuca. I'm the Vice Chair of CB7's Transportation Committee. I'm up here with Katie Walsh, our Committee Chair, our District Manager. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Today is a little bit of a different format than our typical CB7 Transportation Committee meeting. We have a special workshop from the Institute of Public Architecture, which is encouraging us to model and envision a future without PQE and what kinds of changes and opportunities could arise from that. This is going to be especially interesting because BQE has been a big topic for us over the last couple of years. Not only have we had things from the city about BQE revisioning where they showed their ideas and plans, we've also had a lot of discussion about 3rd Avenue and the changes under the BQE, and we're continuing to wait for updates on that. This topic is also of special interest to us because our 197A plan talks about a variety of opportunities that could be envisioned or that could be arisen if the highway was removed and the roadway on 3rd Avenue was narrowed. So I'm going to turn this over to Janet Fink, who is the Executive Director of the IPA, in a few minutes. After I do a few more housekeeping things like roll call, I also want to say that we're going to have, after the roll call, I'll turn it over to Janet for a few other for an introduction on her end. We're gonna then work on the models there. We'll come back together. For folks who are joining us online, you can also leave your feedback or questions in the chat, and we'll try to take some questions from you at the end. I also want to note that IPA is ordering pizza, so we're very appreciative to them for that. So that is something you can look forward to for those of you in person. We'll do a few more announcements and then we'll turn it over for roll. A couple other things to note. This is our 2nd meeting in September. So right now we're not going to be doing any meetings in October, none are scheduled at the moment. However, for Transportation Committee members who are looking to do a little bit more engagement, we have a couple events coming up. First, I want to note that on September 22nd October 22nd, around lunchtime, we're going to be doing a CB7, there's going to be the first of a few Transportation Committee opportunities to engage with the business community on 3rd Avenue. We're following up with some of the feedback from June's meeting where people talked about wanting to reach out and do some more engagement. So additional details to be shared about that soon. We're also looking forward to a tour of the Greenway on 3rd Avenue, which is going to happen on Tuesday, October 28th at 10 a.m. That, I believe, is going to start at 29th Street, but keep your eyes peeled for additional details on that. DOT has also finally followed up on our request for meetings about McDonald Avenue. We don't have any for sure updates, but they have resumed communication asking or noting that they're following up on it. So we don't have any details or how that's looking to work, but we will keep you posted as we hear more. Finally, yeah, we also have heard nothing about the Third Avenue Street Improvement Plan, but going back to the June meeting, there is on the 65th Street changes they mentioned there. Some of the areas have been painted as they described, so that construction didn't quite happen before the end of summer, but it is relatively close as far as those types of things go. So those were my questions. I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy for roll, and then I'll invite Janet to come up and talk a little bit. Oh, before you go, I also want to note that IPA uses has a photographer. Is it Jen? Is that right? Yeah. So IPA, when we're doing our activity, they do have a practice of photographing people for their promotional activities. Now we don't do that type of thing because that's our process. So Jen is aware that if you do not wish to be photographed for this, that you can let her know, and she will make sure that you're not included in any of their materials, which they use for things like documenting grants and things like that. So with that, Jeremy, the roll, and then I'll turn it to Jen.
For our guests tonight, if you haven't done so already, please just make sure to sign in on the table at the door. I'm going to call roll. If you are joining us on Zoom, please make sure to unmute yourself, acknowledge your name, and mute yourself again. We'll start with Katie Walsh. Thank you. John DeLuca.
Yeah.
Thank you. Joan Body. Thank you. George Cardona. Jerry Chan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Danny DeBear. Davina Morales Escamilla. Thank you. Matthew Forkowitz. Thank you. Jamie Freed. Daniel Kaminsky. Roberto Martinez. Maria Roca.
Here.
Thank you. Maria, you do not count for quorum. Sam Sierra. Faye Walker.
Here.
Thank you. You have quorum.
Excellent. Thank you all. So with that, as Janet is here, I invite you to come up to the microphone, tell us a little bit more about the program and how this will work throughout the session. So, Janet, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, is it on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay.
Right into it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Hello. I'm Janet Fink. I'm an architect, and I'm also an educator, and I'm the executive. We are really grateful to Community Board 7 for hosting this event. We had an event here back in June that was really successful, and it's part of it on. Take a few minutes to tell you about. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. We're a very small nonprofit organization, and this is a grant from the New York State Council of the Arts, the Department of City Department of Cultural Affairs. We have many private donors, and then we're also support from the New York Institute of Technology School of Architecture and Design, who supported us during that period in June. So, as I mentioned, we're a very small not-for-profit organization. We use this restoration in the city, and we're based on Scotland, and we work with communities throughout the city on pressing issues like housing, transportation, climate change, resilience, and environmental justice. Since 2020, our design fellowships have been the Expressway, and specifically taking note of the fact that it's falling apart, it's going to cost a fortune to repair. It divided communities when it was constructed. It continues to divide communities. It creates significant noise and pollution, as you know, and that is creating a massive public health emergency. Everyone has asthma and many other health and safety problems for people on the ground. So these negative impacts disproportionately affect communities. So, so we held an all-day symposium looking at these issues. Back in 2023, we had 30 speakers, 5 panels, 3 keynote addresses, including Grove President Renoso, who is a community activist from the area. Okay, oh, go back one. Thanks. So last year, with the Brooklyn Urban Garden Charter School, who's right up here on Prospect Expressway, El Puente, who are based in Lynchburg, and other community groups, we created a oral history project where we asked family members to interview each other about their experiences living walking near the highway. Those interviews are about 40 minutes. They're all recorded and archived on our website. We'll to it's bq153.org. We also, as part of that project, produced a documentary, The Story of the BQE, which we screened several times around the city. We just had to screen 2 nights ago at Manhattan. Happened to screen it here. It's like Adam Paul Sesanic, who has a successful Instagram-based project called Maps in cities that were destroyed by the construction of urban highways. So this film uses private footage and some interviews with experts, kind of talking about the history of the Brooklyn Queens Expressway and the damage that this brought on communities. Of course, communities throughout the corridor have been advocating for years for a solution to the BQE. They recently formed the BQE Environmental Justice Coalition, and they're advocating for a corridor-wide, equitable, community-led to the BQE. Next. Before you run it. So this year, IPA is partnering with Fifth Avenue Committee and Community Board 7 on a series of workshops where Brooklyn residents modify the kid parks, which we'll hear about in a second, using this large-scale model that we've fabricated. The model is 16 feet long and encompasses 16 blocks along 3rd Avenue, right here in Sunset. So our question and prompt to people participating in these conversations is, what if? What if instead of a polluting 6-lane highway that divides communities, what if the highway were transformed in some way to a 2-line boulevard? What would communities want to have in its place? So we asked Adam Paul Sesanic, who did the story of the BQE, to just create a short introductory visual clip about Sunset Park, what was lost here.
Elevated cycle line along 3rd mile, converting the port from a transit pedestrian-oriented area to a maze on and off ramp, naturally drowning the area, ocean, noise, and shadow. Residents of Sunset Park pleaded with us to relocate the planned highway 1 block over or investors coming out. Moses ignored them. Carol continued. The construction of Kiwanis Park laying a concrete slab on top of lively bustling 3rd Avenue, buried the avenue in shadow. And when the parkway was completed, the avenue was cast forever into darkness and gloom, and its bustle and life were forever gone.
So that's just a short section. sure you're very familiar. Let me hand it over to Jen. Welcome, thank you so much for go back and forth to. Yeah. Okay. Great. So it's working? Okay. Hi.
Keep talking.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for attending this meeting. I'm going to sort of orient us to where this model is depicted in Sunset Park and what areas. So I'm going to go through a few that are supposed to have. So here we have an aerograph of Sunset Park. We have the Gowanus Expressway running down Third Avenue to the west of the Gowanus. We have Sixth Ave. To the east, we have Fourth Ave, and you can see a few landmarks, Industry City, Sunset Park. And this model here captures this area noted in the red rectangle. And if we zoom in here, we can start to see that 52nd Street model starts right here at the south, and it captures just the edge of Industry City on the north. These parks on either side, and as you approach the model, you'll notice where the streets are labeled on either side, so you can kind of orient yourself on where you are in the neighborhood and where you are in the model. Now I am going to pass on to Marcus, who's going to run through the pivot part.
Thanks, Jim. So this is the fun part of the exercise, and we start with a base. So instead of using sticky notes for community engagement, we want to use a model, right? And have folks engage and shape space. So we start off with 4 options, right? And option A is basically the existing conditions they should be, right? Yeah. So yeah, much better. So the bases show different options, right? Possible street conditions in and around the BQE. And each option imagines a different future, right, for the streetscape beyond. So option A is basically keeping the existing road conditions, uh, obviously with the highway removed. Option B reduces lanes to make space for buses, bikes, safer streets, and it's basically a gradient of traffic intensities, right, from option A to option D, where it's basically removed, and we have a lot of real estate to work with. So these options aren't final plans; they're open for ideas, meant to spark conversation by people to think about what kind of city you want to build. Next slide. And then there's the kit of parts. So this is, an example of, some configurations that can happen, right? It's possibilities, right? So the kit of parts, it's like a toolbox for reimagining BQE remove, and possibilities for different architectural interventions, housing, spaces, gardens, and the colors mean something, right? So the colors are meant to be legible kind of building uses. So yellow is residential. Anything in red, it's more focused on community. So it can be a library, church, very open, right? And at times you will see some purple structures. They're meant to be industrial components. They're large sawtooth buildings. Some of us might want manufacturing in the area. And of course, green represents different options, landscape interventions, right? So, passive, active. So it's open-ended. It's up for your own, it's up to you to interpret, right? And shape space yourself.
So here's a breakdown of these different scales, right? Of residential, we have our typical row houses that, it exists within this fabric already, right? And of course, up and down Fourth Avenue and beyond, there's a lot of development happening, right? Mid-rise, towers, residential blocks. So really think about the scale, right, of your interventions. Next slide. Same condition as I mentioned, right? So again, very basic abstract forms. Some take up most of a base, and some are more tiny interventions, right? So we have some anomalies that are, bit of a funky shape. It's up to you. Again, this is open-ended, but this is just an idea when it comes to labor. It's up to you to kind of assign a program for these forms, right? Next slide. And this is the sort of industrial and infrastructural components that I'm talking about. Perhaps we can have a swimming pool. There are these small little components for step seating. And you have your kind of sawtooth industrial building as well. These are the interventions from berms, thinking about resiliency to playscapes, something more passive, just about celebrating the local flora of the city. And again, some possible options, right? So I think we can get started, right? Jen, can you show the different base options? Right. I think many of you might lean towards option C and D. That's been happening in a lot of the community engagements. But those of you that still want some kind of flow of, automobiles and buses and things like that, it's something to consider, right?
We want to start like this.
Sure.
Are we ready to so, are you ready to
Absolutely. So if it were up to us, the PQE would already be removed, right? But let's do this ritual of removing it from the model, right?
interactive meeting? Raise the table, you can pull up a chair, help you on the
Can we ask for if you imagine? I'll go on the mic.
Great, thank you, yes.
Bye.
We should have asked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The lecture mic is.
I don't like to use this one. So I like to daydream, right? So I like to daydream all the time. Dream that I will become a very rich person. It would never happen. Right? Because I'm probably on a lot of it. So this is the dream that we all have. So my dream is, like, my question is, okay, we dream with the stuff here, we think better. What are we doing with that? How are we replacing the highway?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me take a
I
moment.
think that's the main concern. I can dream all day, I can play cards all day, but if the question is, like, what are we doing with that highway? Are we planning as a vision to build it underground, like on the same? So Eric is there, who would say that. Are we building that, putting a dome on it? I think we'll discuss that too.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So as the Institute for Public Architecture, we are not transportation experts. And we've had many transportation experts talk about this problem of the BQE, and they don't seem to be coming to a consensus. What we do know is that if you take freight off, the burden on the highway is going to be lessened. And we know that that's in our future because of, and we're moving in that direction, right? So we're actually, as a thought experiment, suggesting that we suspend our disbelief about where the traffic goes. We pretend that there's much less traffic. We also pretend that maybe this is 2053 and we're not moving around in the same way that we're around. And we want to live in a different kind of city than we're living because we're dreamers, right? So, and part of it will be underwater, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that leads right into our base inserts here. So when we do collectively remove the BQE, you'll see, and I'll just show you real quick. So what's underneath there is the current street pattern, which you all know very well, right? There's northbound, there's southbound, and there's a big median in the middle, which is used for what? You all know. What's the median used for? Parking and all kinds of nefarious things. You know what's going on there, right? Okay. So what we're proposing in this thought experiment, this dream experiment, is that we could change the configuration there. Again, we're not transportation engineers. We're definitely not experts, but we come up with these three alternate paths, right? So in this exercise, you could choose to keep that existing pattern. That's template A, right, Jen? Okay, you could keep that, or you could go to right. You could narrow up the roadway and call that the BQE. Say that it's a boulevard, just like they did on the west side. They decommissioned it as a highway. It's a boulevard. It goes up to the tunnel. It's a connective transit artery. So you could narrow it up, and you could have a little bit of available land on either side. Here, I'll show you. So you go right in here like this, or you could be a little bit more. You could be a little bit more extreme and say, okay, I want maximum land and minimal transportation. It's just going to be bus rapid transit and a bike lane. Or you're a radical environmentalist and you're getting rid of cars altogether, and you just have. Again, it's a thought experiment. It's for dreamers, and it starts a conversation, hopefully, about what we want the future of our city.
Oh, thank you for your question. I think there's also a hand. One, okay.
Okay, this is our last question before we jump in.
Just, so that I am, given that there are 4 of those options, A, B, C, and D, are we putting them, one after the other? I mean, or do we do A first and see how people respond, or then B? How does that work?
I think the table's big enough for people to take a seat anywhere they would like along the length of the community and work in partnership with someone opposite and make a decision about that.
So in other words, so if you and I were here, let's say, or where do you want to be? Maybe some of you know this neighborhood very well. Let's say we're here. So we're like,
People on Zoom, they're not here.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Can we just jump in and start? Let's just start. All right.
People online are.
The way, we have marking up with some kind of, I want to say, speakings or whatever, of which street is which.
Yes.
Yes, you'll side,
So 46, 47. So it's a great question. It's a great question. If you want this here, last week we had is 30. Costco, just to orient everybody, so that's the what I call the Costco hop ramp. Industry City is over there. Maybe there's the people, there's a playground. And you know them better than I. So for example, let's say you and I are working here. Okay, so shall we take the bikini off? Yeah, let's do it together. So that's step 1, right? And then step 2. Let's take this one off too. Will you help me? Okay. Okay, so now we have some bases. So we can just decide which one do you want to use.
I would go. What?
There are no wrong answers.
In, some, let me see what we're trying to figure out. No housing.
No.
No housing, but, no,
Babies.
no housing, no housing.
Well, it's all about
Some
the taste.
transportation,
Yeah.
some
transportation.
yeah. Maybe if you just say one more time. Yeah. We can have some. So the bases are here.
So we know we're blowing everyone's minds, but just suspend disbelief, enjoy, introduce yourself. This is Jump in.
Let's just do it. Right, ready? One,
Yeah, I think there's, exactly.
Please, ready. Right.
You're gonna laugh at this. I brought my kids to the last one they did, and my daughter made the buildings. She decided that they were a bouncy house for clowns. No, just her section, because they, everyone got a section, so she was working with, yeah, it was fun.
Well, not just for anybody, just for clowns.
Yeah, just,
We're the L factor we need.
so, yeah. So, yeah, you can put it on whatever you want, and then, everyone will come together and.
I was this weekend because of the foundation for myself. So I was hanging out with the real head of North Atlantic on the phone in John Commander. So we were talking about that. On Sunday, about the week as the encore is.
What did he say?
Where you go to the park? Where you go to the.
Well, do you know who was kind of interesting to talk to this about? Is Lester Chang. Because he, I think, did his master's degree thing on the BQE. And so he's got a lot of opinions about how
He and him and every type of this. Yeah. So, is it a dream? Yeah. Because first thing you do is figure out where the content is. That's the first thing. Once you do that, then you can figure out planning. Remember, when all time ago, it was like a change on the bottom into an open market where people would start.
yeah. What's what they call that? Yeah. They had that in the plans, the city one.
Nothing like having cement rings out on you. Is there no other way into central Brooklyn? Nope. So things are gonna have to get off those. How does that? Or drones. Oh, yeah. Drone, because that happens. Yeah, but I think. Probably that's the case. If you- When you like this, that means everyone will buy. Right, that's 20 plus jobs. Yeah. Yeah.
It was no trucks allowed on it.
Yeah, it's Parkland.
Yeah,
Now it's what, 50,000 a day?
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Well, I know 2 in the morning it's still traffic. That's all I know. So, I mean, yes, I understand the traffic side, I don't think, but. There were maniacs about Parkland. Yeah. I'm gonna watch. Okay, about it now.
We should also announce that for those who in the room, pizza has arrived.
Thanks.
I'm gonna read my phone license. Every guy. Yeah, there's always a major roadway wherever you go. I think so, I was saying, listen, states was invited the community. I want to be, I was trying to some of the project. I do both. Okay. That's from Brad. On this. And my 15 years. This one, I started like red, it's around. And I know the word. What are the transportation choice that are gonna replace? How are people? The Western doing letting collapse. I like down. I'm you know. I hate to pray, but I do want to car to go off. Off track. By and large, that would work. It's a little hard to get wrong. You don't have to take above you anymore. Yeah. It's actually. Some other type of drink. Because the trucks are how. Come on. Now I'm grand. You didn't sound too bad. You're certainly to look like. I see what you're saying. A lot of factories. Or shred go on the waterfront area, industrial site. You know, work that out. A lot of when we made us. I thought I'd give him a story. So, last time. I worked. Like, the big highway that was going to be built there. Yeah, we were going to replace the promenade temporarily, but yeah, well, temporary. And more than likely, since if they would run out of money, they would do.
Nothing. We have a temporary highway entrance for the past 80 years.
Exactly.
Temporary means forever.
Exactly. So that's why we thought it's fun. So I took apart the plan. Loving engineering as an architect, but not as a license. None of the licensed engineers are here because they all have conflicts with the city. They're hired under city contracts. So if they sit, they won't get their next job. So it's longer like me. Just want to work. Didn't go on. And so I made a presentation of the thousand and comparing
looking at the different parts of their engineering, it shows that it did work to the extent. And it shows really hard because I now have a new plan. It's like the quick retrofit of the existing structure. And yeah, I did, I know a lot less money on that project. Spend these areas which would do a lot worse. It's a lot worse than what.
So I thought the idea there was that it's gonna collapse.
It will. It will. Well, there's people who want to patch it and talk about it because it's all the, it's going.
It's like throwing good money.
I'm, but you know, people who think that. But no, I'm fine. Not all of them will be closed, but they'll still be underneath. Like Syracuse, ID1 works the same. Like this, actually, it's, the decision of how you work depends on all the other streets around it, more so than on the actual highway. It's a whole network of transportation. And so a lot of the people who are sort of advocates for animal parking and stuff like that, they're good at the city has a good division for people on local streets. The highway people completely different department. And they don't treat each other very well.
Highways. Yes, they each have their own jurisdiction. Yeah.
Right. So, they think very differently, they train very differently. So that's another reason why it's so good. But this is a very,
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's the one.
Sorry.
So that's another part of it. I don't know. Where we feel.
I agree.
Kind of weird. You want to make this work.
Yes.
Yes. No.
Pouring something.
I'm holding this stick. Or I bring it.
Well, not all.
Folks, just quick, don't throw food waste, even pizza crust out in this room. Please use the garbage cans out there.
This is that's what we're saying to you on that.
Maybe close before that. The city is on fire for many buildings who are not supposed to cross the by the RV. And That's a very, when we hold people, we give them the role, are very important. That's all we have.
Well, actually, like, the grand scheme of things, just make timelines that this year actually be in a new place that it's not. No, and even like a that house, I mean, I think turnover, right, is like you get them into other places, so I would, I would still want some housing. With the acknowledgement, yeah, like that.
Also,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but agree that like. But that. And then we're gonna do stuff. Yeah.
So there is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
After, got one more.
I know what's wrong.
Maybe that's.
Yes, I get a lot somewhere. Or if someone is there, is already. I'm very serious.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Great stuff. Equity in front of us. Comments about the voting, comments about the film, and comments about, meetings should be done in the daytime. Hello.
Sorry, I just wanted to say hi and share the I also love this.
Oh, thank you. Don't breathe in my mouth. So. I mean, I heard there's a lot of stuff now. I could go and get to the temple. That will, we have what, I'm turning up the alarm. All right, so really, I took a few thought, it was my son's ring, I was working, I had youth work that was going on. I was a full-time student, I was, you know, the UN of my sister, I planned to escape to the partner. So I was like, and I'm full of congratulations too. It's in East Flatbush, but it was so much going on all at once. Yeah, it was really necessary, so I my partner and they kept telling me, you know, it's gonna take longer, it's gonna take longer. In building. Neighborhood, everything, but you know, just. Like. Okay. We're like, okay. I don't like to stop you from talking, like, we're being picked up by the microphone. Oh, yeah. You might want to move. For first. Your other microphone's there too. Sometimes there's not all of it. Don't. Like, this is too much. It's like, more than I actually. Yeah, and I was going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
How about?
maybe a year or two, we could kind of situate ourselves around the model, gather some peers, and we're gonna have a discussion, like why you're making these design decisions, right? So the same way that we, kind of grill architects and planners, right, when there's a proposal, we're gonna grill you. We're gonna ask you why, right? Why you put that building there? Why is there a market? Okay.
It hasn't changed. Yeah.
We could try. Wireless has worked very well.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's, you ready? You can start it. So.
Who's crossed it over on this side?
Guys, already started? Okay. So we're asking teams to talk about what they did, why.
So that's like the 36-37 street area, so if I can see it at Costco. And so I think what we landed on was like in this area, with the transit at 36th Street, it makes sense to have like higher density housing, to that easy for folks. We decided to stack some of high density housing on top of retail. So those are good street. But we also want to make sure that it wasn't just for like housing and commerce. We wanted to like dedicated cultural and recreation spaces. So we decided to get rid of Costco. And there's like a park with like some sort of like cultural event center. We don't have to museum or performance space like that. And some green space as well along with the highway.
We're high technology.
Who's next?
Next section.
Okay, just to work on these two problems, we wanted to continue to be on the space that was started, shaking a little bit. Shaking? Yeah. Yeah, old school, old school.
Okay. A pool moving down, on the side of the river, a bit away from that. To be away from the street, but also look out onto water. They continue them onto the sand, and now it's just sort of a large place for families in the area. There are some escapes and child the playscape sprinklers that we were thinking of that are moving forward. We also reconfigured the street base a little bit to make way for both cars and bus lanes. We got the flexibility. We also thought it would be a little more realistic. And then you have some commercial slash retail on the bottom floor. We were thinking that they could be schools for some of the people who, an additional school for some of the people who work in the area, residential on top, and then green space on the roof, as well as a green walkway to the next roof. Maintaining some level of industry, but the general idea was to turn some of the abandoned facilities into residential. So if you had more, yeah, and more green space in some of the abandoned areas and parking lots, and then a playground here. Yes, please. Question, what is that tall structure that is beige, the two blocks here? I'm sorry, I missed that. Is that was yours or the people before? What is that?
This is where we sliced the model. I think the building.
Oh, where there is a charter school now? Is that what that is? What is the name of that building where the charter school is now?
Yes.
39, 38, oh, no, 38 and 39.
39, and I think the building is like that big.
Yeah, okay.
It's not part of your person.
No,
It's just an existing.
So that's 30 and the same, 39 is for that red 30?
Yeah, this is 38.
Okay. And you were from 39 to 41st?
Yeah.
Okay, we thank you for not doing anything higher. Those of us who love our view corridor from.
Issue number one. Could you please tell for our decision of taking out the cost?
Yeah,
I can tell you're buying asking them, but like,
yeah, not much thought was put into it. We're, it was just a bunch of space on the back here, so it wasn't modeled out, so we were just like, okay, it's a bunch of space out there. I don't think there was like a lot of thought to like, spiking cost to it, but I think, some of us got the sense of like the parking lot and that space might not be like the best use of space. But, per se, I do not have strong feelings on cost.
So that was 1, 2, 3.
Now, here, this is a
Here.
47. 47 to 44.
so I got it now. So for this section over here, we have, Sunset Park area on this side of the, and then looking down towards the waterfront that way. And, so we placed a little bit of more greenery right underneath the D2E. We have more greenery in the area that we have in, this is usually an industrial area, right? It'll be towards Second and Third Avenue. And, we need more housing, so we placed the yellow blocks in this area. We need a lot more housing. So, but we made sure that the housing wasn't above a certain level, passing this, the already existing buildings that were there. Because, before we had an issue with, developers trying to build higher levels of, developments here. And, and, and we want to make sure that we have a good view from the Sunset Park area for our area and overall towards the water. And yeah, we have some restaurants, some playgrounds, seating areas, some pools, and a lot more greenery for our
Are you guys the ones who put the,
Let's go to the phone, one,
into the microphone? Are you guys the ones who put the green space on top of the residential buildings?
So it was a garage, no, but I'll make sure I'm looking at it, so. So whoever did, we're making sure, we're not against any green areas on top of the residential, or anything like that. We're just making sure we're looking. Thank you guys for helping us out on that. Yeah. Uh, why, why do you think that, not having, why do you think that, having high buildings will, negatively impact the area? Why do you think that the high buildings will negatively impact the area, especially when we're 2 blocks away from the waterfront?
first, and then I think. And you said-
So, yeah, so the his, the history of Sunset Park, we also want to make sure the park stays known for having the best view in Brooklyn. And, it's not, if it was up to us and we didn't have a view, or, we want to keep that essence of this community, of being able to see the waterfront. It's what makes Sunset Park. And, if we didn't have a waterfront there, of course, we'll build more residential areas in our area, taller than, this. We have different opinions, and I just want to keep we just want, overall, we want to keep this to have great view of something.
For those in the room that may not know this, hello? Okay, I'll speak louder. Maybe that'll wake it up. For those of you who may not, Sunset Park, where Sunset Park is, were the winter grounds of the Lenni Lenape Indians in this area. Because 6th Avenue is the top of the ridge. I comes from Staten Island. That ridge arrived with the last ice age and stopped on 6th Avenue. So it goes from Staten Island, Main Ridge, Sunset Park, the cemetery, and part of Park Slope. So the Lenni Lenape took very good care of this area and respected Mother Nature. And many of us believe that that was why we have what we have. They would be down at the waterfront, spring, summer, beginning of fall. The families would come up where and this is not because we say so, this is documented, where the pool, the recreation center is where they would build their longhouse and where they would plant for the winter. And so the women and the girls would stay up there, and the men and the boys that were of age would go down to the water, in the ways that we know, natives, American Indians, ran their lives and looked at how they lived, and then continue to fish and whatnot. So we want to honor that because we wouldn't have Sunset Park, not just for Sunset Parkers, for New Yorkers. If the Native Americans had not taken and respected Mother Nature and taken care of the land and the water and the sea and just took what they needed, no more, no less. And I think that's just a nice way of looking at how you as a human occupy space. Thank you.
All right. So we had a lot of water because, yeah, we got this here.
Yes.
This block 46 to 47.
49, that's 49, 46 to
I guess 46, 48.
46 to and the date was who?
Oh, that's, yeah, okay.
So
Okay.
we have 48, 250.
Yeah, so I think the big orienting factor here was just the idea that a lot of this is gonna be underwater 25 years. I think the amount is up for debate, but we focused on keeping a lot of the commercial and the industrial kind of on the west side of Third Ave. And then we hadn't really gotten to the east side. I think that was a conversation we were having about how much housing, how much density, how much are you able to support the families that do live in that residential housing that are already experiencing flooding versus how do you try and like adapt onto that side? But then here we just had a lot of green space, get like theoretically absorbing some of that basketball court, but yeah, just kind of a transition from, oh,
One south, one north.
the rapid bus transit bike lane here. And then, yes, it's just kind of a transition from water to industrial to firm to more and more residential.
I also wanna-
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, go for it.
So, 20, so we are 25 years in the future. There's also as time passes, how do we support? And this residential here, remember that the people living there, those people are going to have to be, re-lodged somewhere. The public coffers are gonna have to support them. Whoever's here, because I won't be here in 25 years unless I discover some bill that I don't think, I may not want it, I realize that. But, we have to think, how do we support all the people that are east of Third Avenue, as they are no longer able to stay? And how do we think about it? We talked about in the neighborhood, one idea that has been floated is land swap. Bring the commercial and light industrial that is up the hill, that shouldn't be there because a lot of those operations are toxic. They're right next to residential buildings, and bring them down as the weather, climate permits. Build resilient structures that are maybe 20 stories. No one is on the ground. You go up, businesses, jobs. You don't lose jobs. You bring the jobs down, but you get people out of the way so that when things happen, you can put them on buses or whatever, get it to higher ground, not knowing what we know that we are not party or participate in the loss of anyone. We know what's coming. So just little by little, just what is the expression of the managed retreat? Is that it? Right, the lingo is managed retreat. That we, as we do this, think that this has to be managed retreat here, because this is 25 years, there'll be 30 years. And I think we had a conversation locally here that supposedly, well, no, already people are not many children, because it's expensive, children are very expensive, and many individuals don't want to bring too many children into a world that seems quite precarious on some level, particularly areas that are waterfront cities. New York is an ocean, that's what we are. And so we might not need down the line as much housing as we now need. So, and this is the conversation out. Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe people will decide to have 20 children because whatever, who knows? But right now, that's a conversation, and we know that. Okay.
I have one question, two follow-ups. Can somebody explain what any of these scenarios would mean to local property values?
really smart. So because most of these proposals have been completed right away, they don't specifically impact the property owners, right? However, it's better, it has, it's Bluetooth, okay. So, not too loud. So, however, there is a condition that we're all familiar with, right? If you look at the High Line in Chelsea, then, where in that case, the district under the piece of infrastructure, right? That was restored as a public park, which is an amazing, wonderful thing. Values around it skyrocketed, right? And there were also little land swaps that went on, things like that, encouraged to build luxury housing. I think that with our workshops like this, we're asking people to think proactively about the future so that when and if change comes down or our activism efforts to change, we are positioned as a community to advocate for responsible use of the land. And so that might look like perhaps community by community, there might be community land trusts where, a community group, consortium of groups takes responsibility for this new land that's being freed up. Fantastic. That's fantastic. If you add up, like, let's say you take the sort of solution, which is a little bit of transportation, but, allowing for some, serious through traffic, there would still be enough land to equal almost half of Central along the entire corridor. That's a tremendous amount, right? And change that we're looking at from climate change and the pressures that we currently have on housing stock, it seems like an opportunity to good to pass up. Hope that answers.
Are there anybody online who has their hands up? Anything?
No.
Oh, I missed your, so actually, let me go to Katie then, and then if anybody online, let me know. Otherwise, then we'll return to Janet for some wrap-up remarks.
So I've done nothing, a ton of housing here, and I urban forest. And this is 100% affordable housing. We the green technology, not green technology, but this is industrial, but I'll just say it's green. Like, and this is in response to the visioning that this could look lots of different ways on third, but with recognizing that we should do a lot of stuff on second and on first front to kind of build up the infrastructure before you get to Third Avenue. Things that others have talked about. Overall, you inclusive impacts better off than other communities like Columbus or anywhere on Fourth Avenue parcel. Yeah, I was proposing.
And is there anybody who's raised their hand or anything online?
Nope.
All right, so then with that, I know our time grows short, so I want to turn it back to Janet or any of the IPA folks to see if they have any closing remarks. And then we'll get back together and we'll share our report. Yes, more please.
Yeah, thank you everyone for showing up. Great proposal, very powerful thoughts about the future of Sunset Park. I think the main intention here is to not have this formal process of just posting stickers, right? You're shaping space, you're putting your architect's cap on, your planning cap on, landscape architect's cap on, and really thinking about the consequences for these design moves, right? And I really appreciate the different commercial, density residential, some that don't want towers at all. The whole gambit. So thank you. I think it's very enriching and we really want to continue this process and for all of Jackson. One point. Anyone else?
I have a question. In your, hello, in your work, do you know any group that is looking at this situation from the point of insurance? Who's going to, as things change, who's going to pay for the insurance aspect, and the other, the legal aspects? I know your expertise is in what your focus is visual, but we're looking for those people who are, so that we can learn. And we appreciate that you're here with your expertise, your work, your vision. We like the manipulative, because this is good kindergarten. This is the way it should, every human likes to touch and play, and we're playing for something good. But if at any point, I don't know, I guess, Jeremy, what are you up to? If they have any ideas of the other aspects of this situation, we're listening. We'd like to hear about, because we need to talk to a lot of people. There are many experts and a lot we need to know so that we can plan and prepare and save ourselves. Thank you.
What was that asked to do?
So
Yeah.
the question was about whether there was any insurance or those kinds of implications and how we would, look to that kind of change. Yeah.
So we do know, two people come to mind. So there's someone who actually went to undergraduate school with Marcus, who actually has a firm now called Dorothy. She works with homeowners who experienced a natural disaster, and she does flood mapping, insurance maps. So she's working with the insurance industry, and she's working with architectural and urban design point of view. She's wonderful. We can connect you. And then the other person who comes to mind is Vanessa, who spoke at one of the screenings that we had at the family. Vanessa Owens Chaplin. She's a lawyer. She works for the New York State ACLU, and she's been working with communities in Syracuse they've voted to remove their urban highway, and neighborhood by neighborhood they're deciding this place. So we can send you. Yeah.
Thank you. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank Marcus, right, and Jen, and for coming from the IPA and for bringing pizza and helping us all explore this fascinating process. Thank you all for coming. Gonna adjourn our meeting, but I know that the IPA folks will need help repackaging this stuff, right? So please feel free to stick around and help get that process going. But otherwise, our meeting is adjourned. And just keep in mind for anybody interested, especially committee members, 22nd, the walk, 28th, let's also walk, on the Greenway. And then stay tuned for future meetings in November on the calendar. All the stuff will get announced in the community board newsletter. Thank you all.